A lot of change is now coming to the Star Wars universe by the hands of Bob Iger, the new Disney CEO who recently took over Bob Chapek after Chapek was fired by the board members. Basically, he now has a new strategy in place. Basically, a strategy that's going to satisfy a large portion of the Star Wars fandom, a large piece of the community that walked away from the franchise after the sequel trilogy came to a close, and also especially with what happened with the Boba Fett series and the Kenobi series. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you also very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing about this new strategy on handling the franchise by Bob Iger, and especially by many of the board members over at Disney, is that they really want to continue that Skywalker saga, that Skywalker bloodline as much as possible. But they don't want to overdo it either. They want to make sure that it's going to be well balanced also with the introduction of new characters, Legends characters, and a whole lot more coming out. Now, Celebration next year, mind you, it's going to be a very big deal. John and Dave have a lot of announcements pre-planned already. They have all of these great strategies in mind on how they're going to announce it. And it's not just that, but it's also the fact that we have Bob Iger going into meetings every single day with the board members on how they are going to handle the franchise now. So that brings us to the biggest thing. Now, we talked about this about a week or so ago, about how Disney is already planning on finding a way to reversing the death of Luke Skywalker in the upcoming Star Wars canon, and exactly how they can go on and approach that. Now, we talked about this, however, there has been a lot of back and forth happening, and we're going to dive into this now. Now, Disney is currently trying to win back many fans who left the franchise after the sequel trilogy came to a close. Bob Iger and the board are currently crafting many strategies in order to make things right with the fandom. One of which has to do with this plan for the reversal of Luke Skywalker's death in the Star Wars sequel canon more, and how they can go about doing that. And though both John and Dave have been informed on this big plan by both Bob Iger and the Disney board, there is a recent development about this strategy. The plan as of now has nothing to do with the world between worlds, or time travel, but rather to bring Luke back as flesh and blood via the power of the Wills, who are godlike creatures that created the galaxy, which is of course becoming canon more so directly soon with the Wills. Now, half the board members spoke to Filoni and Favreau about this pitch, and John and Dave believe it could work, which is the good news. The bad news about this approach, however, is the more powerful board members that call the shots more so on the direction of certain decisions within Star Wars are not for this idea, and are debating on why this would be too over the top and would essentially devalue the mythos of the Star Wars franchise and make it seem too out of the norm. Now, I want to pause here quick for a second. Now, the thing about the Disney board members, for those of you that don't know, there's quite a number of them. More than half of them feel that this is going to be way too over the top if this is done in the Star Wars franchise. Now, again, I would feel that to a degree. You know, it may seem over the top because the sequels are over, it's long done, what's done is done, Luke is dead. But this comes off as also desperate in the eyes of Bob Iger. You can see that he's really trying to correct his wrongs and correct his mistakes that he made with the sequel trilogy movies. On the other hand, it will be very entertaining to see Luke coming back to life. I mean, who wouldn't love that? Who wouldn't love that, right? But it has to be executed well, it has to be done perfectly, it needs to fit the story. You can't just bring him back and have him just stand there, right? So, that brings us to the power of the Wills. That's basically the approach right now that Disney is pitching and spitballing right now with the board members and with other board members, and they're debating on this. The bad news about this is that the board members that have more power over making certain very controversial decisions feel that this is not going to work well, that this is not going to be realistic, that it's too over the top, and some of you watching right now probably will agree. Now, given that this, by the way, was an original idea by George Lucas to bring Kenobi back to life on Endor during the celebration. One of the original drafts of the script actually involved Kenobi returning as flesh and blood, and he was just there, alive and well. Now, though he didn't use the power of the wills at the time, it was more or less an unexplained scenario. This time around, they want to make it an actual explanation of how Luke can come back using this power only one time. Now, on to the next thing here. So, the power is set to exist in Star Wars lore very soon regardless, and will be labeled as Force Revitalize. Disney's plan is to use this upcoming Force Revitalized power on Luke in an upcoming live-action post-Episode 9 series is the plan, that would bring the older version of Luke back as he was during the events of The Last Jedi, appearance-wise. John and Dave have also warned Disney that this could easily be done wrong if not done correctly, and even if done correctly, some fans may believe this to be too over the top. However, John and Dave endorse this plan. Now, let me be real with you guys. Do I think that this is really going to happen? Do I think that Disney's going to decide on this? And the Disney board members that are very, skeptical about this, are they really going to go forward with it? To be honest, I don't think so. That's my hard, honest truth of an opinion there. I don't believe so. I believe what they are going to do is they're going to stick to their initial plan, what we talked about 6 months ago, of using that power, the same exact thing that we just talked about, except only bringing Luke back to life temporarily to help for a greater cause, only to be reverted back to the netherworld of the Force, which is also, by the way, going to be called the Astral Plane. That, I think, is going to be the more realistic route that they're going to eventually agree on and take, which was already planned from the very beginning, and makes a lot more sense. Now, would I love Luke to come back permanently? Absolutely yes, but will it, in turn, kind of translate to being too over the top to a lot of fans out there? That's up for debate too. So overall, there's a lot of great things that are happening by John and Dave regardless. I mean, we're getting the Luke that we love in his prime during the Mandoverse. I think that's great enough as it is. But to bring Luke back to life would only, enhance people enjoying watching Luke as a young Jedi throughout the years of the Mandoverse era. It would actually enhance the experience without a doubt. Because there are fans out there that are not enjoying that experience still because they know that all of this is going to lead up to Luke's death eventually, right? And I understand that, I do. So I can see why Disney wants to right the wrongs here, especially Bob Iger. So overall, there's a lot of things happening with this. They have to make a decision by this on February. I believe it's like the first week of February. They have to make an ultimate decision before they can call it final. So anyways, with that being said and all, I would love to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon,